Gentlemen, welcome back. Today's the day we are going to start rust bluing our Model 11, and I'm going to give you guys a full tutorial on how to do a rust blue. I wanted to give you guys a good close-up of what it looks like beforehand, so then we can compare it to after. Notice there's very little bluing left on here. This is maybe 5% of its blue is left, maybe a tiny bit more. There's some browning. There's some browning back in here, but very little. So as you can see, I stripped the thing totally down. I have everything inside right now. This video, we're going to focus on the receiver. I want to show you guys how to do a rust blue. And we're going to do it on the receiver first. I'll show you guys one trick for the barrel. If you don't have a thing for boiling, we'll talk about boiling and steaming at some point. We'll discuss all that. A little bit later in this video, we'll discuss some of that. But for now, first thing we need to do is degrease this. So off camera, let me pull back a little bit. Oh, there's my workbench. All right, so you can see off camera, we have my degrease pot. So over here, there, we're gonna run it through a cycle of the ultrasonic cleaner just to try to take any dirt and grime off. And then a old Spam can works perfect, as long as it's not a barrel. An old Spam can is great. Fill this up with acetone or fill it up with paint thinner. I have access to a body shop, so I just get my father has a body shop, so he buys 50-gallon drums of paint thinner. So I usually just keep a couple gallons of it here. But fill something like this up with paint thinner, let it soak for 15 minutes, 10 minutes. You're just trying to get any of the water and stuff out. We'll pull it. And one thing to remember is when you're doing this, let's get you back over here. When you're doing this, hold on, let's go back in. Something to remember, when you're doing this, wear gloves. Just go to Harbor Freight, get a box or two of nitrile gloves and wear them. Once this thing is cleaned and degreased, you do not want to be touching it with skin oils. It'll contaminate the finish and it won't look good. So wear gloves, take your time. I guess I'm going to throw this in the pot to clean, and that takes about 20 minutes. So while that's cleaning, I'm going to jump and we're going to talk about boiling and steaming. So I'll move you guys over there. All right, so we got two options here. First off, get yourself one of these old turkey fryers. Go find a used one, propane turkey burner. A propane burner of some kind works great for getting your heat. You need some sort of heat source, obviously. Now, second up, in my previous video, and if you guys want to go watch, I'll link it again, Mark Novak talks about making a boil tank out of a gutter, and this works perfectly. The problem here is it is a little bit long. So this one's great. It's the length of the barrel, and I made it specifically just so to make sure that it would fit the shotgun barrel and potentially any barrels in the future. Now, as we get closer, we may end up not doing a boil. We'll see. Your other option, if you don't, here's a good way to think of it. If you got good clean water, boiling is really simple. You don't need to be distilled, you don't want super hard water. Boiling is easy. Throw a bunch of water in there, bring it to a boil, and let it boil for 30, 45 minutes. There's that. Now let's talk about the other option. Here is our other option. I don't get on camera much, so in the garage, but here we go. Here's our other option. This is I think I paid like $6 at Walmart for the pot. It's glued. The top I took off. I drilled some holes. Oh, there you go. Drilled some holes in it so steam will go through. This is our steam pot. Toilet flange and I guess what, 4-inch PVC? Big PVC. And this is how you're going to steam it. Fill the pot with water halfway. Light your fire. Let the steam start billowing. Dip your part in, and same process, let it steam for 45 minutes. Does the same exact thing. It will convert the red rust to black rust, and you don't have to have a big thing of constantly boiling water, which sometimes is hard to get. Here in north central Florida, our water is really, really hard. We have very hard mineralized water. So boiling tap water will sometimes leave a residue. It'll leave, minerals on the surface, which takes a little bit extra time to buff out. This is a better option. And if you don't want to have big bluing tanks, this is a much easier thing to build and put aside. You can kind of stick this on a shelf somewhere and it doesn't take up so much room. That was me, not you. Okay, so let's get the part cleaned. One more thing I want to talk about. Let me go find a book. We'll talk about a book real quick. So one more thing I want to talk about real quick is this book right here. And I'm not trying to do a bank run on this. Don't overpay for this book. If it never comes back in print, it's been out of print for a while, I believe. If somebody needs a couple pages copied out of this or some pictures taken, I can do that for you. So don't go spending $200 or $300 on like a first edition. I think this is an older first edition book, but don't spend a huge chunk of money. Just if you can find one at a reasonable price, pick it up. This book has information that does not exist on the internet. You can see it has plans for making like a browning for rust bluing. It has plans for making a container. It talks about the history of bluing and browning. It tells you chemicals that go into your compounds. It'll even give you back here solutions, rust bluing solutions, if you want to buy the chemicals and make it yourself. So if you do a ton of rust bluing, you could just buy these in bulk, make your own rust bluing solution and try it. But yeah, really, really helpful book. Pick one of these up if you can find it, or go to your local library, see if they have one, take some pictures of the pages, and put it back on the shelf, something like that. Well worth the money if you can get it. Just, I think I paid $40 or $50. Don't pay $200 or $300 for something like this. It's not worth it. But if anybody needs a page or two out of this, I have no problem taking some pictures and posting it. So let's get the receiver in the hot water, cleaned, degreased, and then we will start the bluing. All right. I forgot to mention, got into the cleaner. Now it's an acetone, we're just letting it degrease. We're gonna do our first boiling card, I forgot to say that. So because this is a previously blued old firearm, we're going to boil it first, see if there's any rust that needs to be converted. Then we will add our rusting agent and go from there. So let me get this over to, let me get this over to the boil tank. We're gonna bring this to a rolling boil and let this sit for 45 minutes or so and get this down in there without burning myself. Ooh, that's hot steam. All right, remember, from here on, well, one, you can see that little bit of rust, which is good. But from here on, make sure that you are wearing gloves when touching this. Let's go ahead and card. Move this over. Out of the way, and we'll come in here and card this, and then we will start rusting it. Also remember to degrease this if you're going to use a carding wheel like this. It looks okay. let's take it over. I think these are all rust spots that got converted. Let's take it over and start the next rusting process. All right, so next up, you need humidity. Oh, my glove tore. Let me get a new gloves. You're gonna need some humidity for this. So if you live in Arizona in the desert, you're gonna have to build yourself a warm box, a rust box, something like that. Basically, you'll need something that produces, and again, I keep sending you guys over there because the content is excellent, but Mark Novak has a good series on rust bluing, and if you're working in winter or you're working in a dry climate, he shows how you can make a rust. I'm gonna use this as some air to see if I can blow my glove up, get it on my hand. Here, I'll show you what I'm doing. Ooh, that was loud. You can use a box, like a moving box, cut it open, warm the air up, and humidify the air, most importantly, and that will give you, allow your stuff to rust. So, all right, I did good enough. So what we have here is Brownell's Classic Rust Blue. This was sent to me, I think, by Brownell's a long time ago, but we're going to go ahead and use it here. Laurel Mountain works well. These are the only two I've used so far. Laurel Mountain worked great for me. So we're going to put this on. You don't want it too thick. You don't want to go too thick. But you want to touch up all the metal. And once it's good and wet, probably shouldn't have it touching the cloth. Good and wet on all the surfaces. Here in Florida, after days of raining, our humidity is very high. So we shouldn't have any problem getting this thing to rust. Even if I just laid it out in the humidity, it should probably rust on its own. I'm going to take off any extra just so it doesn't have too much. And that looks pretty good. It's nice and surface is nice and wet. Make sure the surface is good and wet everywhere. And we will let this sit and develop some rust. I need to get a new set of gloves. Here's before it starts rusting. We just put the solution on. You can see the bluing that's happening in here is already starting to turn a little bit. Remember, this will only rust so much, so check it periodically. You don't want it, obviously you don't want it rusting too much, so check on it every couple, 20, 30 minutes, depending on your humidity level. When it gets to a nice brown, powdery rust on the top, we'll convert it one more time. I'll be back. So here is where we prove that you gotta trust the process. Yes, this looks terrible. If this was anything else but a controlled rusting, you would be losing your mind. The rust that's on it is absolutely super, super thin. So I don't know if you guys noticed. We're gonna take, first off, we're gonna take it over and steam it this time. So I don't know if you noticed on the first one, the hard water that we have left some spots on it. So I'm gonna try steam this time, see how that compares, and we'll go we'll go accordingly. If steam does the same thing, which I don't think it should, then we'll get some distilled water, but steam should do this perfectly. Look at that Remington on the top. If it weren't rusty, it would look pretty cool. But okay, let me get this over in the steam bath before it rusts anymore. I'll be right back. All right, we have steam. Let's put our rusty receiver into the steam and do your best not to burn yourself because steam is hot and it will singe your fingers. Oh, sorry, I'm in the way, guys. All right, that goes in and it barely fits. Just leave it like that and we will let it sit and steam for 20 minutes. At least that's what my book says, about 20 minutes. We'll let it go. I'll be back. All right, let me grab some pliers. Maybe I can dig it out. Out of the steam we go. can get in there without burning myself. Oh crap. It decided it's gonna stay. Let me see if I can get it out. Here's what it looks like after the steaming. And you can see there's some little spots of red rust. That will get taken care of next time. But you can see here, all of that red rust has turned to black rust. So we're good. So we're gonna let it cool off so I can actually handle it, and then we'll take it. And the other thing to note is it doesn't have any of the water spotting like when you do boiling with hard water. So steaming, we're just gonna do steam for the rest of this one. Works perfectly, so stay tuned. We'll be right back to let it cool, and then we're gonna card it. All right, still a little warm, but we're gonna card it anyways. That's looking good. And that is our first boiling card. Now we're going to take that, do the same process over and over and over, and get it good and dark. I'll be back after maybe the 4th or 5th time. Let's get moving. All right, real quick, before we do our first rusting, on the barrel, I wanted to show off the condition of it. So I did do a boiling on this already. You can see, did a boiling on it, so I converted anything that was already on it. But I wanted to show you guys what it looked like before we start rusting it, because it's going to turn nice and black. There's a little bit of light, you can see on the front, like up in here, it's very light. This one, the barrel's actually in pretty good shape. I'd say it's got about 80% of the bluing, but we're gonna bring it back up to full blue, especially all over back here where it's a little light. You can see this side. Yeah, look how light that is. So, all right, I'm gonna get some stuff on it, some rusting solution on it. We're gonna get this thing up and rusted. Oh, and here, since we're here, that is after 3 rustings, and I have the 4th coat on there. You can see it's taking a lot longer to set in. The more you go, the thicker that layer of rust, of black oxide builds, and the longer it takes to rust it. 5 rustings usually. Right now here in Florida, it is like 95% humidity and 95 degrees. Florida summer is great for rusting, so it's actually rusting really quickly. If you try to do this in the winter, you have to have a hot box. So anyways, let me move the camera over and we're gonna get some solution on that barrel. So we're gonna try doing everything but the barrel extension. Remember, the barrel extension should be in the white, and we will come back and polish up that barrel extension, because it should be nice and silver. It shouldn't be blued. Buckshot. I think, get up in here, we got it. So for this first one, we'll come back, I'm gonna let it sit for 10 minutes and then come back. We'll do one more, we'll add solution one more time, and we'll let it rust. All right, we're gonna do our last carding on the receiver. It just came out of the boil pot and it is very hot. We're gonna card it and then take it off. So I'm going to take this and see you at the table. All right, so final step. We're going to take our hot part here and leave it in kerosene for, that's not too hot. We're going to leave it in kerosene for about 24 hours. And let it bake. Should come out looking great. We'll be back. All right, it's time to pull our parts. Use this old dirty towel. We are going to pull our parts out of the kerosene. So these things have been sitting, the parts have been sitting for, sorry guys, parts have been sitting for 24 hours. While I was off, while the receiver was sitting, I did the small parts by hand, just real quick. So you can see here, there's our cap, and yeah, a little bit of blue will come off with it, but that's fine. The receiver here took about, I'd say 4 or 5 rustings, I think 5 rustings. All the small parts, I think did 3, and then they just didn't want to take on any more blue. So I pulled them, figured let's throw them in and let them cure. And we will clean them up. We'll grab our barrel too. 1 second. Let me grab the barrel. Here is our barrel. Now let me get them all dried up, get the kerosene off of them, and I have an opportunity to go out and shoot today. So I'm actually going to put it back together, test it, and then we'll come back and do a video of niter bluing. So let me get this done.